Hola, bom dia, Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal live stream, YouTube channel and podcast. And we've got a few comments that came in as a result of yesterday's hilarity discussion of toilets, Portuguese property photos and B-days. You're never far away from B-day gate. Once you start talking about B-days, it does bring it. Never mind about COVID and wearing masks. Talking about B-days in Portugal seems to bring out the beast in people. Quite attached, it would appear. Some people are. How are you today anyway? Hola, bom dia to you. Tudo bem? Or como estás? Do let me know in the comments who you are, where you are, and how you're feeling this morning. I have to share with you that looking through the news this morning, I'm feeling a little bit, I think saying sort of downbeat or miserable is going a bit too far. But I am very interested to hear what's good and great and inspiring where you are in Portugal. Or if you're not here already, let me know what's good and great happening around you, because we are living in obviously quite challenging times. We are grappling with what we are daring to call a new normal, or co-creating a new normal. And I would like to know how that is for you. Excuse me, I must have a sip of my British tea in just a moment. But let's start, as we often do, with the weather. Quick look around the country here in Portugal and see what the weather's going to be like in the principal parts of the country. Always happy, of course, as well to do weather in specific parts of the country. So if you don't often hear about your part of the country as far as the news goes, especially here on the Good Morning Portugal live stream, let me know where you are, and I will tell you how the weather is going to be looking for the rest of the day. That's, of course, if I can get it to load on my screen, and it's messing about at the moment. Oh, okay. Here we go. So, for example, yeah, in Évora, you don't often hear about the news forecast for Évora, but today, 18 degrees and overcast. Looking forward to a cloudy high of 27 degrees. Castelo Branco I'll do as well, because that lovely picture of the dragonfly on the clothes peg, our starter screen this morning, came from Eco Paradise Centro Portugal. They're a lovely project, post up fantastic pictures. That's exactly the sort of thing I'm talking about, that may be a new normal for us, is living a simple and good life, a natural life here in Portugal. And they produce some of the most wonderful produce and pictures, including that one that I shared this morning of the dragonfly landing on a clothes peg. Can you imagine that? You go out to hang up your clothes in the bright Castelo Branco sunshine, and there is a dragonfly waiting for you. Perhaps your power animal, who knows? Anyway, I'm in Castelo Branco today. It's only going to get to 29 degrees and cloudy, currently 16 and cloudy. So a relatively cool day over there in Castelo Branco. Back to the principal parts of the country then. Lisbon, the capital, 19 degrees and overcast, rising to 25. It will still be cloudy. Better, clearer skies coming for the next 3 or 4 days around the country, actually. Porto, 19 degrees at the moment, mostly cloudy, rising to 24. Remaining cloudy all day. Coimbra the same, remaining cloudy all day, but a high of 27 and currently 19 and mostly cloudy, partly cloudy too in Faro. But the sunshine returning, a clean sweep of clear skies and high temperatures, just nudging 30 in Faro for the rest of the week, but currently 21 and rising to 27. So do let me know how you're doing. Henry is here. Look, Henry was actually here in my house last night. Henry Jeffries and family were touring Portugal, and I think it's safe to say they had a pretty amazing time here in this fabulous country. Henry put together an incredible tour, landing in Faro, and he and family managed to take in Tomar, Anadia. They came to see us in Anadia, and we showed them around Anadia and out into the valleys around here, heading towards Luzon, Basaco, went to Mortágua. I can't remember where else we went. Oh, yes, that's the shot of the beach I shared with you at Barra. We went over to Aveiro and had a lovely meal over at De Terra as well, the vegan vegetarian chain here in Portugal. And I think, Henry, let me know what your view is on this. But how would you rate Portugal based on your? You've only been here a few days, haven't you? But you've packed in so much, and it was lovely to see you. And yeah, be really interesting for me to hear and for others to hear. I think here of your impressions of Portugal on your most. I think you've been here before, but this is perhaps your most significant visit with an eye to looking at whether that you might want to make this your home. So good morning to you. Do let me know. Carlos Loff. This is really great. Carlos is responding as I was hoping. My good news is that thanks to the community common efforts, we're almost ready to open a multi-event space at LG's factory. Join us. Go to his website. I don't know Carlos Schloff, but I love the cut of his jib and the sound of his project here. And we haven't talked about the LG factory, or LX factory as it's known, to you tourists in Lisbon. Amazing. What an incredible place that is, a co-working culture space. I was in a co-working settlement, you could call it, made of wonderful what are they called? Metal containers, that they use for importing and exporting stuff. You can on container ships. And I can't remember the name of it now. Forgive me, but it's getting on for 3 years ago now. I don't hold that sort of information very long. But it just next door to the LX factory. I was in Village Underground. That's where we were with Alnet. And it was always nice to pop across to the LG LX factory. Great restaurants, cafes there, great shops, and a really nice vibe there. So good for you, Carlos Schloff. Good news, community common efforts. I don't know what that is, but it sounds really good to me, and I think that is the shape of things to come. That's what I want to say as we talk more about the news. But let's just do a few of your comments. Thanks for that, Carlos. How did you find us here on the Good Morning Portugal live stream? Great to hear from you. Hola, bon dia, Carl. Massive thunderstorms last night here. It's all very apocalyptic at the moment. Slept through it though. Claire and Steve, well done, well done. Always nice, isn't it? Aren't we the lucky ones who have a roof over our heads and a warm bed to sleep in as we listen to the thunder and rain outside? So I'm pleased for you. I'm glad that you slept through that. Helps possibly by a Vinho Tinto or two. It can help, can't it? Hit the man of the moment, Will Thompson. Bon dia? Question mark. Not sure that went as smoothly as hoped last night. For my money, Will, it went perfectly well. It is what it is. It was what it was. And if you're wondering what we're talking about, we do a Good Evening Portugal show now, which is a bit more open-ended and a longer, calmer format. Perhaps, again, after a couple of glasses of Vinho Tinto or Branco or Vinho Verde, your favorite tipple, and discuss the news of the day. And we reinstated Thompson Tuesday last night and had a look at some of the pandemic politics. And it's actually, while we're on the subject, and I'm going to do an update for you, because we used to do this a lot, obviously, in some strange way, we have the pandemic to thank for the very existence of the Good Morning Portugal live stream in this format, because we were a information service for English-speaking people in Portugal to help everybody understand what to do and flatten the curve. And last night we got together again with Will Thompson to talk about what's gone on. And I hope I'm not misrepresenting you, Will, but it's gone from this is the gist I get anyway. And other people might be feeling like this as well. Tell me, the authorities whose data and information guidance we took as gospel at the beginning, and why wouldn't you? I was going to say companies, they're almost companies, corporations like the WHO, the World Health Organization, and the CDC in America. We took the data, took the information, took the suggestions at face value. Will has had a turnaround. I think one of the words he uses about those organizations now is that they were bloated, and they may not have our best interests at heart. And I think where Will's going, and I certainly agree with him, if this is indeed what he is saying, and he'll be able to defend himself and say what he said here in the comments, but that we have to do a hell of a lot more ourselves independently to sustain and promote good health for ourselves and within our communities. Perhaps that's the story of these times, where we're expecting government and these large do they still get called quangos, or these large organizations that have formed you would hope and you would imagine for public benefit, have perhaps been a little bit hijacked by vested interests. That's just human nature, isn't it? I'm not going to bang on too much about that. That's more of a Good Evening Portugal thing. But suffice to say that my money is still on us creating a new normal that is community-based and is local, rather than expecting too much national or global help. Because part of the conversation last night was that there is so much conflicting information at that level that actually the overwhelming feeling for a lot of people at the moment is that one of confusion. So actually, what else do you do when you're confused, but kind of double down on your immediate reality, your own life, your family life, and you perhaps look towards support and help mutually within your local community. That's what I'm about myself, and I can see that I am thrusting that agenda upon you, certainly as a suggestion. But of course, this is interactive. You may join me on the screen, and please do feel free to share your views in the comments as well. So thank you for that good news there, Carlos Schloff, a new name here, possibly coming in via Expats Portugal, whom we are working in collaboration with. Bon dia, my dear, says Sean. I imagine he says it like that. He's loving the cooler days. You know, you've been here a while when you're glad of a cool day in Portugal. Thank you, and good hola, bon dia to you, my dear Sean Maguire as well. Hola, bon dia. Hot and humid here near Southampton. I know a fella just down the street from me, funnily enough, Paul, who's from Southampton, Portuguese parents, and has ended up here in Portugal. So a fellow Southamptonian, is that what you guys call yourselves that way? But great to hear from you, Paul. Good morning. Bon dia, Neil Perkins. How are you? I always think of the wine club when I think of Neil. We will be here with a Douro wine tomorrow evening, 9 o'clock. The hiccuping headmistress, Eloise Healy. It was all too much starting at 10 o'clock. So good evening, Portugal is going to be exceptional on a Thursday night and start at 9 for a weekly wine tasting. And I will publish that today in the Good Morning Portugal Wine Club community group, the wine that has been chosen for tomorrow evening. Jay, you live in a place in Portugal I've never heard of or considered visiting until yesterday. I had this idea that you lived in some super boring area with sod all to do, pardon my rich language there, just country and nice properties for the rich to retire. Well, I went on Google Maps and straight away I was very surprised. You even have gondolas and a lovely looking, interesting, quaint place. I don't know if you're referring to Aveiro with the gondolas, but you might be talking about Korea, where there are pedalo sort of boats in the park, which we're not allowed into at the moment. I did get in touch with the Teramash Hotel and Gardens last night to find out when the public would be allowed back in, because that is an incredible resource. And I got a reply, to be fair, not the one I was looking for, you know, and the reply was, this is not an attack or any negativity towards the owners, but it's a private, the inference to me was that it's a private establishment. The cleaning and the making safe of the space is expensive, and therefore they can only make the facilities at this stage available to clients of the hotel and not for people just wandering about. I'd gladly pay to go in there, but I'm not getting a choice. I feel excluded from that delightful place where I think you're referring to where the gondolas are, Jay. But yeah, it's not super boring, I can assure you. It's not super boring. Korea is a really interesting place, as is Anadia, where I now live. So yeah, thank you for stalking me and where I live like that, Jay. And good morning to you, mate. How is Wales today? 10 out of 10. Thank you, says Henry Jeffries, to all the lovely people we've met. There you go. We've done him proud and his family while they were touring Portugal. And to you and Louisa, Mrs. M, for guiding us around. Mrs. M did enjoy a few glasses of the Tinto with you last night and is perhaps paying a little bit of a price this morning. We'll be back, says Henry Jeffries, in a Terminator kind of way. Yes, we're looking forward to you coming back, Henry. So there you go, 10 out of 10 for everybody in Portugal. We can all get a pat on the back for that. Good morning, Carl and everyone. Enjoyed the conversation on last night's programme. Although we have our differences, it shows we can do this if we are respectful to each other's views. Spot on, Gary. That's what it's all about. I hope to uphold that spirit. I encourage more participation from people from both ends of the spectrum. Yeah, me too. Me too. Thank you, Gary, and thank you for taking part. What Gary did last night, actually, was that jump onto the screen and tell us, Gary, it wasn't so difficult, was it? After we ironed out a little bit of a technical difficulty, we were able to, it was, fairly straightforward, just being like on a Zoom call, really. But, and, it's not a massive audience to worry about, making oneself a fool in front of. If I worried about that, I certainly wouldn't be doing this. And I urge you to join us for a chat on screen. Any and all of you, up to a maximum of 10. Very interesting show last night, say Dave and Debbie Wynell. These things have taken an interesting turn. I will do the official COVID-19 update for you, thanks to Portugal News, in just a moment. So we see what the official narrative is on that, and then perhaps we can talk some more about the condition that it's putting us in. The pandemic state of mind, shall we call it that, and the impact, the economic impact. For the last few months, I'm saying, this is the elephant in the room. The social impact of the pandemic is perhaps something we don't want to look at too much, but look at it. We should, I believe, not that I like shitting on people, but I think it's important to look and consider what the impact might be. It's going to be considerable. It's already considerable for a lot of people. You may not get the sense of that from the general picture. I mean, obviously, yeah, you get a general picture of where things are headed in terms of unemployment figures, but it's all numbers. As Donald Trump would say, big numbers. It's all, and numbers aren't very personal or private, are they? Numbers give you an idea, but that's why I'm asking this question this morning. What's good, great, and inspiring where you are? We need to pick it up on a community level. Ooh, and I need to sort out my collar there, I'm just saying. We need to pick it up on a community level here if we're going to ensure that we gosh, this sounds very conservative, but preserve the way of life that we've become accustomed to. And by that, I mean, the way of life people love here in Portugal. I do, without wanting to sound like a scaremonger, I do think that is under threat socio-economically. To chuck in a a sociological phrase there, here just after 9 on a Wednesday morning. I think it's in our hands. This is what I'm saying. It's in our hands. It's up to us to shape it how we would like it to be in our neighborhoods. And by the grace of whatever and the goodness of the Portuguese people whose country this is and who surround us and who've welcomed us in, as far as I'm concerned, and within my experience, to preserve, uphold, honor all that is great about this way of life, because I think it is going to be threatened by the pandemic effect. And I will keep it light. I'm going to keep it light. We'll go deeper and we'll talk more profoundly and possibly argumentatively, all within the best possible taste, to coin a phrase, in the evenings. But I can't not talk about this even in the mornings. Maybe like the little boy at the Emperor's new clothes procession. I've got a good friend who positions himself like that and has for the last 20 years. Chris Paradox, good morning to you. But I totally resonate with that sentiment that, the Emperor's Parade is not all that it's cracked up to be. We've been sold a lemon, is that the expression, in terms of the potential of this economic system, and it's I think it's slipping through our fingers, and it's down to us on a local level to do something about it. So stay like Carl, stay positive. Good morning from a cooler Fundau, which is lovely after the intense heat. Yeah, a lot of expats enjoying the cooler weather of the last few days. And Gary is apologizing for not having his glasses on. You're all right, mate. You're all right. You're among friends here. 1 or 2 cervejas and vino tintos may have helped. That's Steve Claire's prescription for sleeping through a stormy night in Manchester. Bon dia, Carl. Here she is, Eloise. I was just saying, Eloise, I don't know if you caught that, that we are doing, of course, the Good Evening Portugal show with the wine tasting, but at 9 o'clock. So in how long is that? Yes, 24. In 36 hours' time, if my mathematical mind serves me correctly, we'll be here tasting wine under the leadership of this lady here, Eloise Healy. And Eloise, I don't know if you're able to put the link to the chosen bottle. A bargain, I think, reduced from what, 12 euros or so, down to 3 or 4 euros in Continent at the moment. You see, I can do it all. I can talk about the big socio-economic issues of the time and talk about wine as well here on the Good Morning Portugal live stream. Valerie Spencer-Becks, here we go. Answering the question, what's good, great, and inspiring where you are? Valerie says, you can go jump in puddles, a lovely, refreshing walk in a little bit of drizzle. It is lovely to be a bit cooler, and you know that blue skies and sunshine will soon be back. I think that is inspiring, Valerie. Good morning. I haven't heard from you for quite a while, Ana Lucia. That's not to put you on the spot or shame you in any way, but it's lovely to have your company again this morning, Ana Lucia Pinho Pereira, who is always good for telling me how to pronounce my Portuguese correctly. So it's great to have you here. Yeah, jump in and have a go. People no worse than having a chat down the pub cafe with your friends. Yeah, that's how we roll on the Good Evening Portugal. So be sure to join us 10 o'clock most evenings. Exceptionally 9 o'clock on a Thursday for the Wine Club. Shelley Lowry, good morning all. How are you doing, Shelley? Great to hear from you again. I think you were with us for a little bit last night, weren't you? Jay Walker, I did think it was Aveiro. Sorry, my bad. Not at all. It's not far from us. We can jump on a train and be in Aveiro in 25 minutes. That looked amazing. I reckon I could find a living there. Yeah, certainly could, Jay. Aveiro is a very exciting place. As a DJ, I imagine you could get a gig there. We were walking around the lanes of Aveiro very late, like proper Portuguese people. The kids were out. It was 10, I think, after 10 even. The bars were looking good, sounding good. You'd barely know that that tourism had been cruelly constricted. Great vibe in Aveiro the other night. So yeah, it's they say it's the Venice of Portugal. I say it's also like the Chicago of Portugal because it's so windy at times. And you could say it's the Cardiff of Portugal in a funny sort of way, with all of the revelry on, down there in the bay at the development at the Cardiff front there. It's not as big as that, but the vibe is there. Aveiro, I could see you in Aveiro doing a reggae gig, a regular. I think you do work with other genres, don't you? But I can definitely see you in Aveiro. There are umbrellas on outdoor dining tables absolutely everywhere in the pedestrianised areas. Outdoor areas, so many restaurants. It's complicated, transformed since lockdown easing measures. It's like being on holiday where I live in Cardiff, he says, in Cardiff Bay. Very safe. I think it's probably one of the safest places in the world. So grateful for that. Enjoying the staycation. So celebrating life in Cardiff Bay and how easygoing it would appear to be for Jay enjoying his staycation. Making the most of a kind of self-imposed lockdown there. Good on you, Jay. Yeah, I can definitely see you in Aveiro. If I can do with an accent like mine, anyone can do it, and the Wine Club also. Yeah, Gary joins us on screen to sample the wine. What do you mean with an accent like yours, Gary? I can't say I've noticed. And there is the link to the said bottle for tomorrow evening. Yeah, and a really good reduction. I found mine last night in Continent. Pete's here. Good morning, Pete. Answering the question, what's good, great, and inspiring where you are? And Pete always finds great things to share as the unofficial ambassador of Castanheira de Pera. What's good? Forests, river, and mountains. What's great? Microclimate, local food and produce. What's inspiring? The integration of the Portuguese and international communities. Pete, that I have to say has sent a little shiver down my spine of appreciation, inspiration. And, I was looking through the news this morning. There is some crazy news, albeit I did only look at the Portugal Resident and the Portugal News, and they do a great job. They really do. I mean, it's not an easy time to be running a news service, that's for sure. And there is some bonkers stuff in there, which I might just touch upon in just a moment. But to hear that makes my heart sing, mate. Forest, river, and mountains. That's what Central Portugal is all about, right? Microclimate, local food and produce. Yes, yes, yes. And what's inspiring? This is the great gift of being in Portugal, I think. The integration of the Portuguese and international communities. Certainly in Castanheira de Pera, by the sound of it, I would echo that wherever I've been in Portugal. You've nailed it, Pete. We can stop the show. That's good enough for me. Looked great. I wonder, is that the wine that we're doing? Is that the show last night that we did? I'm not sure. Okay, but good morning to you, Claire, anyway. Claire Bendel in Central Portugal as well. Castelo Branco, I believe, if I remember correctly. Let's have a look then. Let's get the update on the COVID. If we were talking about this last night. Let's get the specifics for Portugal, because we haven't done this for a very long time. And we go to the Portugal news for this. COVID-19. Portugal update, 11th of August. Portugal today registered 2 more deaths, sadly, and 120 new cases of infection by COVID-19 in relation to Monday, according to the Daily Bulletin. Hold on a minute, just have a sip of tea. Ooh, that's better. The number of people hospitalized is 365, 9 fewer than on Monday. And in intensive care, there are 35 people, 9 more than the day before. According to the DGS bulletin on the epidemiological situation since the beginning of the pandemic until today, there have been 52,945 confirmed cases of infection and 1,761 deaths here in Portugal. The Lisbon and Tagus Valley region today total 27,281 cases of COVID-19, 72 more than the previous day, which represents 60% of the cases. So that's pretty significant in terms of representation there. I'm not going to go into all the regions. You can do that for yourself at theportugalnews.com. And I'm interested to know, at the beginning of this, when we were all, terrified, I think, is say, or if not terrified, then very uncertain and unsure about what was unfolding in front of our very eyes. And I am not making light of the fact that there have been 1,761 deaths and over 50,000 cases. But it's not quite the doomsday scenario. I mean, it is obviously for those people and their families of the 1,761 deaths. No question about that. And I don't want to seem in any way sort of point scoring or manipulating that data, for the point of making a political point. But it's not quite the picture that we were, I don't know, is led to believe the right phrase. It and in talking to Will about this last night, on the one hand, you can say, well, we did it, and perhaps we should be not proud of ourselves, but pleased with our performance here, that we acted together and we took measures to flatten curves, to minimize the spread of the infection and so on, thereby minimizing the worst case scenarios. So in some ways, yes, isn't that great that we did that? And we have, if we compare some of the predictions that were being presented early on, we've got off lightly, we could say. Second waves are threatened, of course, and people are still being asked to be alert and vigilant. So that's why it's difficult, I think, isn't it? Because on the one hand, you can say, well, we did pretty well. We have flattened curves. We have minimized infection and death. And that's a good thing, but let's not get complacent. And either way, kind of fear would appear to triumph if we let it. And that's why I wanted to balance things today with wanting to find out what's good and great and inspiring where you are. I think it's so easy at the moment. This is the main point I'm wanting to make this morning. We are we're not post-pandemic, really, are we? We're kind of intra-pandemic. Is that the phrase? We're still seeing this unfold, and we are now in a position where, after a few months, we can make measurements against the predictions, which obviously the passage of time allows you to do. But what I really want to do, what I really want to request from you, is that we have a balanced view, and that we have a bigger picture view, and we have a sense of perspective about where we might be headed, and that we don't become completely kind of overwhelmed by the pandemic message, by the fear messages, and that our future is still in our hands, and that the lesson we might have learned possibly is that we can't rely entirely on governments, corporations, and big organizations who don't even know who we are, basically. So, and the point possibly is that we never probably could, and we've just been reminded of that. Anyway, Aveiro looks great, says Claire. Yeah, it was lovely to be over there the other night. Thank you for clarifying that, Claire. Claire probably means clear, doesn't it? I'm sure there's a connection there. And just to give you an example of that integrity, this Friday we're having a Mexican night at mine with Chef Aldo. Back to Castanera de Pera now. And if by, a perfect demonstration of what can be achieved locally, I'm really impressed by what I hear is going on in Castanera de Pera. This is a model for me. On the one hand, like I'm saying, like I'm banging on about a bit this morning, we can get into a very fearful state, and we can hope that the governments of the world will provide the solutions, or we can do what they're doing in Castanera de Pera, by the sound of it, which is take matters into their hands locally. I mean, they're not an independence. Maybe they are going for an independence. the independent state of Castilla de Pera, the independent republic. But they are clearly in a long-held and well-celebrated aspect of Portuguese culture, working as associations of people on a local level. I just love that about Portugal. And to give you an example of that integrity, says Pete, this Friday we're having a Mexican night at mine with Chef Aldo. See, he's throwing his doors open. That's the way forward as well, isn't it? To take matters into your own hands. At Shea Wilton Davis, Chef Aldo is there for the Mexican night. And Sunday at the social club, we have a barbecue and quiz night. We will have people from Portugal, England, Holland, Poland, Spain, Wales, India, and Chile. Isn't that fantastic? That's the way forward. If I wasn't so happy where I am here in Anadir, I'd be considering Castanera de Pera. Hannah Downey, thanks for that, Pete. You always inspire me. We're learning to live with the pandemic is what I feel. New habits, new routines, the reality that we should live in the moment and give thanks. Wow, very philosophical for me. I would expect nothing less, Hannah. I think you're right. Absolutely right. We humans are very versatile and adaptable, and we can get used to the most extraordinary and difficult circumstances. Having said that, I hold a light up that we might not get too used to life that is too draconian or threatening. Or when I see, my heart hurts when I see children in schools in masks being socially distant. Or being socially distanced by grown-ups. To me, it's like, I understand it, I get it, I understand why that's being done. But we also have to consider the psychological, spiritual effect on children, do we not? And get some sort of balance here. So you're absolutely right, Hannah. We are learning to live with it. And I also think we should, keep asking the questions like, is that right to do that to kids? Haven't we terrified kids enough in the last 2 or 3 decades with environmental doom and gloom? Can't we give them more of a vision like Pete's doing? That's my idea of a kind of, a multicultural event. They're not even banging on about it being multicultural. It's just like, that's how it is. There are people from all over the world getting together, having a barbecue and a quiz night. That's the way to learn how to be multicultural, isn't it? Not necessarily in a classroom or in a sociology lecture, but there and then at Pete's house. Hannah Downing, yeah, we're learning to live with the pandemic. Excuse me, just give me another sip of tea. Yeah, all this pontificating is making me thirsty and dry. Shelley Lowry, one of the best things about this pandemic is that everyone now washes their hands. And it isn't a lick and a spit. Ooh, Shelley. Yeah. Okay. Yes, I think we've been reminded, haven't we, about personal hygiene from many angles. Absolutely, says Claire. Is that about the kids and about how we might, think twice and think again about what we're doing to ourselves and each other, and doing our best really to release the grip of fear and without wanting to sound like an old hippie, come more from love and respect and compassion. And I get it. I really do understand. It is terrifying. But it's also, we have this remarkable capacity as human beings, don't we, to reflect and go, hold on a minute. Yeah, we're terrified, but maybe we're a bit too terrified. Maybe that's inordinate. Maybe that's inappropriate. Maybe that's not commensurate with the actual threat. Good questions to ask, I think. Children have to play with each other, hold hands, skipping ropes, hand clapping songs, slapping hands together, bit of rough and tumble. A hug makes them feel safe and special. Yeah, and to me, I agree with you, Claire. And, this whole move of the last, I don't know, several decades of kids can't be hugged by their teachers. Like, if you can't trust a teacher, something's gone wrong elsewhere. It's not right to police it at that level, I don't think, of okay, no one touch each other just in case. What sort of world is that? Less philosophical, what will happen to Tinder for the young people? A question I often ask myself. Not, Hannah. I don't know. Your answers in the comments, please, everybody. If you are a young person, unlikely, right, that you're a young person here listening to this morning. But if you are, what will happen to Tinder for young people is the question. So as well as wondering what's going to happen to Tinder, we're going to wonder what's happened to the B-Day. We got some pushback. Hold on. Regarding Tinder, a response straight away. Go back to old-fashioned dating. About time. Yes. As an old romantic myself, Anna Lucia, I have to agree with you. Dating, get off the phone meet people, meet friends of friends. That was always good, wasn't it? When your friends acted on your behalf. As, I know someone you might like to meet, and you have a date and you hang out and you know, old-fashioned stuff. It sounds great. The survival rate of this COVID is huge, says Claire, as another reminder. Yeah, thanks, Claire. And the hope, certainly my hope, is that the measures we have been through has actually brought good science, has bought the good science time to find solutions. Okay, yeah. And that's what we were talking about last night, actually. Yeah, mitigation and buying a bit of time. And they are more each day. This is usually why mortality rates grow less in diseaseless times. We learn, we adapt, and we move forward. There we are, the ingenuity and wonder of the human being working together in community. Sean, also wondering what's going to happen to Grindr as well as Tinder. Thank you for lowering the tone even further, Sean, with that. B-Day and Tinder. My mind is a whirl, asking all the important questions this morning here on the Good Morning Portugal live stream. I worked with children in school primary for 7 years, and they skipped to me and held my hand at dinner time in the playground. I fear for the new normal. Same here, Claire, and it's up to us, isn't it? People like us, old hippies, to maybe question some of the worst excesses that are being suggested. And, those people who are in positions of massive responsibility understand why they're doing this. And that's why I think it works better on a local level to get the government guideline and then figure it out on a local level. When you hear of communities that work as well as Castanheira de Pera, for example, you can see that the elders and the people of Castanheira de Pera are very capable of putting into practice what will work for them. And that can be based on the biggest numbers of science, can't it? That can be based on government guidelines, but they know their area. They know each other. They know what will work. Yes, primary school. I used to be a caretaker in a primary school, and working with young kids is fantastic. That is good, great, and inspiring. They remind us. I'm going to break into the greatest love of all in a minute if I'm not careful. Right, yeah, back to YouTube, though, because we have got some questions answered that were put out in yesterday's show. This is the Good Morning Portugal YouTube channel here that I'm sharing with you on screen now. Somebody asked about the movement of North Americans into Europe. Your question about Americans being able to visit Portugal, says Mary Jo Figueira, I'm guessing Portuguese, from this side of the Atlantic, Canada. The news is that Americans cannot go to Europe's Schengen travel zone, which I believe Portugal is part of that zone. It is. Canada, along with some other nations, are excluded from this ban. That was of June the 30th. So Canadians, okay, but not Americans. I don't believe anything has changed. She says, by the way, started listening to your podcast, but only in the afternoon because of the time zone. Well, I hope this is a nice surprise to you later. And I'm sorry that we laughed so much at a picture, which you couldn't see on the podcast yesterday. But we kicked off the Portuguese property pick group yesterday, and we kicked it off with a corker, I have to say. So this is where it gets a little bit controversial, I think, about B-days. B-days are not in fashion anymore, as are bathtubs not in fashion anymore. I am renovating my bathroom and was told no one uses bidets anymore, says Mary Jo Figueira. Vasco Apollonio says, wow, what are you talking about? I don't know if I was referring to something I said, because I often get that, wow, what are you talking about, Carl? But I think that's a direct response to bidets not being in fashion anymore. Wow, what are you talking about? Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. I think that will run and run, right? But the bidet, if nothing else, is an additional place in which to wash your hands, which we should be doing now. I've kept you too long. So I wasn't able to share the news story about Portugal no longer signing up to not using robots in war zones. I couldn't believe that this morning. But what I'm really pleased about is having got a little bit sort of having my energy drop a little bit, maybe put it like that, by looking at the Portugal news this morning. And I know it's a very subjective take on things, but I'm so chuffed that we've had a conversation that has touched upon the good, great, and inspiring where you are. And it's a reminder to me to feature that much more on the Good Morning Portugal live stream. Share with us what's good, great, and inspiring where you are in Portugal, what you want to do. If you're not here yet, but you're coming to live a good, great, and inspiring life, tell us about your dreams. Tell us about your plans. Tell us about what's working wonderfully and beautifully on a local level. Send us pictures of your produce, of your animals that you're rearing in Portugal. I would love to see those. Very quickly, no to robots taking people's jobs, unless they're terrible jobs, Claire, right? If it's a terrible job that no human being should be doing, let the robots do it. And one day, maybe, we will have that idyllic moment that we were all promised by science fiction and technology programs years ago, that the robots would be doing the jobs and we would be able to just take it easy. Didn't quite work out like that yet. Thanks for that, Claire. Grinder, all I know is the handle fell off mine the other day. Misses. Thank you, Gary. We'll leave it on that note. Thanks for joining me this morning. Thanks for cheering me up, actually. Take care. Bye for now. Te logo, te já, te próxima. Atiamania, beijinhos, abrazos. Ciao, ciao.